everybody. Welcome to the Rundown with Ramon. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Ramon Ray, producer of the Rundown with Ramon and publisher of zoneofgenius.com and a few other things. But you're not here to learn about Ramon Ray. You're here to talk to Eric and Tameka of Marraige Takeover. So once again, welcome to the Rundown with Ramon. You can get to know me better at RamonRay.com. With that, Tameka, how are things in your world as we speak right now? How are you today, Tameka?
Today, you know what? 100% honesty.
Yeah, let's go.
A little annoyed. It's an amazing day. A little annoyed.
I've been that way. I just came back from 14 days away doing some volunteer work at my church. So I'm not feeling annoyed, but I'm feeling, clothes are still packed up there. I got to wash clothes later on and all that. What about you, Eric? What's going on in your world today?
Hey, I'm going to tell you, listen. Right now today, I am good. I have learned to just have a bad moment and not a whole day. The sun's shining, the birds are singing, the wind is slightly blowing, so I'm going to enjoy and help bring some of this annoyance away from her.
I love it, which is, hey, what we're getting into about Marraige Takeover. I'm sure there's some applicable things that you all have learned. So, Eric, let me just start with you, Eric. Talk to me a little bit about right at the start right now, before we get into the journey. What is Marraige Takeover? Who are you and Tameka? Just let's bring that out right now. Who are you today? What's Marraige Takeover all about?
Oh, man, Marraige Takeover, we help couples win in their marriage by identifying their triggers and breaking the generational cycles. That is, when I say that is Marraige Takeover in a nutshell, and I mean, we're grateful, we thank God, because couples have literally not just taste victory, but enjoy victory and still walking in victory. So yeah, that's Marraige Takeover in a nutshell.
Wow. Were you listening to me and my wife today? Were you eavesdropping on our car?
Hey, I said, I kept my ear to the ground. I get my ear to the ground.
I love it. I love it. Tameka, talk to us about what you say Marraige Takeover is and your version, your side of the world of how that may be, how you serve people.
Absolutely. So it's we help couples win in their marriage. So by identifying their triggers and breaking generational cycles. So we really help them win. We get in the trenches with them and help them, link arms with them and help them to know that they are not alone inside of their marriage. They're not alone inside of their struggles and their different challenges, and they can win. So we love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Tameka, when I look around at my friends, well, not directly my friends per se, generally by God's grace, those closest to me, but when I look around a lot of Americans, I'm sure your friends, and I should say, yes, some of my friends, marriage is abysmal, is failing based on what I see, just not stats. You are the experts. Tameka, does that ever depress you? May be a wrong word. You feel free to reframe any question I ask you, reframe it how you want. But when you look at it just seems hopeless. 22-year-old, 25-year-old getting married. I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't. It just seems like everybody's, I hate to use this D word, but breaking up. Thoughts on that, Tameka, just as we'll get to the business in a minute. But since you all marriage experts, I do want to touch on that because it's an important topic. I've been married for almost 30 years. And so I'd love your insight. Do you ever get down or, anything like that, Tameka, when you look at marriage overall?
So I do get sad, and I think that's a part of the annoyance as well, just because I think so we got married 18 and 19 years old, and I was 18, he was 19, and so we were really young, didn't know a whole lot. We were following love aimlessly and following love, and it was just a struggle. And so sometimes when I look around and I see others, I feel like they quit too soon. I feel like maybe we get into it because we don't have all the tools, all the resources. And when something gets hard, we decide that, I'm going to turn the other way and I'm going to end this relationship. I'm going to end this marriage and go to what they think is the grass is greener on the other side and realize, it's not as greener as I thought that it was going to be. So I feel like we fail, we give up too soon, we stop too soon instead of really learning the lessons behind really learning each other and loving each other through it all, instead of just saying, I'm upset with you, or this isn't working out. We can't come to a common denominator on communication, so I'm out. So it really is sad. It really is. And it's, I think there was a statistic that we read recently where in the Christian space, that it was like the numbers are so high. There's a 69% divorce rate. And the number one reason was about communication.
And that's sad. And that, you say we're Christians, as I am as well. And, we're supposed to be reading the Bible and God and Jesus and all these things, but yet we're those who have the biggest problem. Please continue, Tameka.
Right. And so it's a challenge around that space. And so when we think about just the overall rates of divorce and how we come together, like I just feel it hurts my heart because I think that we really can overcome instead of really being selfish, instead of really kind of succumbing to our own needs and our own desires. We lose the essence of what marriage was and how it was created and the whole essence of why it was created, which was to be the image of God. It was to reflect the characteristics and the image of God. And we lose sight of that. And so it makes me sad. And it really makes me sad because I think about, could you have made it? If you thought about what could I do differently, if you thought about maybe if I had shifted my perspective, not changed who I was, but maybe if I just shifted the perspective just a little bit, what could have been done differently?
I love it. I love it. And also, by the way, anytime I happen to be very fast, clipped sometimes, my wife and others would tell you, but in this interview, Eric and Tameka, feel free to stop me. Say, hey, Ramon, I want to go back. No problem at all. Just as we're talking here, feel free to, to stop me if you want to add. But Eric, on that part, did you want to add anything on that particular, what Tameka shared?
Well, well, no, she pretty much she covered it. Because it's literally that, especially when you know that you have a mandate on your life and you begin when your heart aches, just to see it's like, wait a minute, really? So now, I mean, but she covered it. She covered it.
Okay. Did you want to
so anytime you want to add anything, let me know.
Okay. Well, I did, but I didn't want to say that her numbers were off. But
so the overall divorce rate is 69%.
No, the overall divorce rate in the US is literally anywhere from 40 to 50%. But when you look at that 40 to 50%, that's just overall. But when you look at that, 38% are Christians. 38% out of, let's just take the higher number, out of that 50% is Christians. And so for me being a believer, it's, hold on, wait a minute, really? It's like, are we actually believing what the word of God says, or are we not? And it's like, when I say believing what it says, I'm just talking about just the actions, just, communication. Well, if I can spend time in prayer, I can spend time with my wife. Or how can I know that God is a healer, a deliverer, or or I can overcome if I'm not willing to let God be God in the marriage. And so it's like, hold on. Do we know that we are created in the image of God? But did you know our marriage shows the characteristics of God? Check it. In marriage is truly the one place you can actually identify unconditional love. You can clearly identify.
I love it, but go ahead, please.
Go
ahead, please.
No, it's such a passion for me because when you see, like, the couples, like just this year alone, 3 couples they filed for divorce, but because they filed marriage takeover, it was like, you know what? Let's give them a run. But now it's like, no, tell the judge we can't do it. One, they couldn't have had to go to the divorce court, but it was like, no, we decided to stay together. So the judge threw it out. Why? Because we were able to show them, one, who God really is, and being, like wife was saying earlier, and get in the trenches with them so that you can overcome. This is what his word says when he's talking about overcoming. This is what his word says when it's talking about healing. We don't just give you the word. No, we show you how the word comes to life. And when you begin to exercise that thing, listen, we're not so heavily minded to where we're no earthly good. No, we understand. But then when you begin to see that, oh man, I'm having a hard time communicating because I recognize growing up, I was only seen and not heard. I didn't communicate because they always told me that to stay in a child's place means I got to stay quiet. I can't speak. So therefore, now you have a communication issue because now you're back in a place where love is supposed to be shown. And so now I don't know how to communicate because I was always told to be quiet. So my bad. Yeah. So
no, I love this. We're going to flip this script and just talk more about marriage. So let me throw something at you, Eric, and you probably haven't heard this before. This is probably very unique, probably to you. but she just don't understand me, Eric. And I appreciate all the stuff you're saying is great. You know, yeah, bad. But my wife is special. She is different. She is different, Eric. You've never met my woman before. She just don't understand me, Eric. It's all her. I am doing everything I can as a man. So, Eric, you don't understand our marriage. I think it's just over. I've done everything I can, Eric. You just don't understand. What do you say, Eric?
Oh, you're right. I don't understand yours. But what I've come to understand, women are women, men are men. So now question is, what have you done to say, hey, honey, I have an issue in this area. Can we have a conversation about it? Everything comes, if you do not listen, and all thy getting, get what? An understanding. How can I get an understanding, or how can you understand me if I do not take the time to have a conversation coming from a place of love than hostility? Because when we get to, oh, you don't understand me, that's exactly how we bring it. You don't understand me, so therefore I don't listen attentively. Now I'm listening to only respond. So then therefore you can't hear the heart. So therefore that means if you're not communicating clearly, that means she's not receiving what you're saying. Because what she might have been going through in her young years, when somebody got to holler, they shut down. So now if you're gonna come to me, you don't understand me. Why? Okay, I'm shut down. No, I understand you because I can't hear you. But then if I can come to you with knowing who you are, oh, you are my queen. Yeah, glory. Baby, I just want to share this one thing with you. I love who you are. But listen, but when it comes down to this, baby, do you really understand who I am? And then now, what is that? Her guards are down. Why? Because now you ain't trying to come hollering at you. You show her who she is to you. So now, what got her thinking? Dang, you know, that is my king coming. Oh, baby, I love the way you're talking to me. What's going to please? Now tell me what's on your mind. What do you just do? You just set the atmosphere to where you know, baby, all I want to do is hold you. Meaning what? I put you in a place of safety. So now if she doesn't understand you, how is your approach to talk about so that therefore you can have clarity? In clarity is oneness. In clarity is unity. So if we can't, as men, oh my goodness, my bad. If we as men can understand what God has given us, don't you know we set the atmosphere no matter where we go. No matter where we go.
Sure.
That's why I'm being honest. I love your energy. Why? Because you set the atmosphere no matter where you go. So guess what? In your home, you still set the atmosphere. Just like I said earlier, I thank God for my wife. She was a little annoyed. I got it. But guess what? That annoyance cannot overpower the atmosphere that I set. But a lot of times we want to jump into the annoyance. But no, that's why I said, no, I'm bringing you out of that. Come on here now. We got this, my bad, y'all like, you about to get me excited. But this is one, because when you begin to set that atmosphere so that she can understand you, guess what she's going to be talking about at the same time? The very same thing so that you can understand her. God.
I got you, Eric. Tameka, let me ask you a question, Tameka. What do you tell ladies and or men, talk to however you want, Tameka, who've tried? The lady has toiled. She's done everything right, biblical or not, but let's focus on biblical right now. Christian women, she's done everything she can. And her man clearly is not like Eric. Her man is a hard-nosed, not listening, just, I don't know how to say it in French, evil man.
Yeah.
What do you say? What do you say, Tameka? What do you say?
So what I'll say to her, and it reflects back to remembering when, so Eric and I, we've been married now 25 years, but it has not always been this. It has not always been peaches and cream. And so when we were at year 10 and 11 of our marriage, we were on the brink of divorce. And what was able to bring me out, and what I share with other women is, stop focusing on them. Because for so long, I tried to change Eric. For so long, I tried to change my spouse to make them what I wanted them to be. What I want him to be. I want him to talk a certain way, to move a certain way, to show up a certain way, to respond a certain way, to do things a certain way. And I had to get to the point to where I had to stop completely focusing on him and really focus on me. Tameka, what are you looking for? Why did you respond the way that you responded? Why did you react the way that you reacted? Why did you do that? So in that particular case, when, because, we can get a little sideways sometimes. And it's like, hey, wait a second. Don't focus on him and his response. Because when we focus on our spouses and their responses, especially when it's a negative behavior, when we want them to change, when we want them to do something differently, we try to control the narrative. And when we try to control the narrative, that's when we kind of get in the way and in the weeds of things, and we get lost inside of our marriage. We get lost when we were once happy. I like to ask them, well, where did you start? Because you didn't start here. Where did you start? Now, slowly, think about, when did it start to change and why did it start to change? Now, because you fell in love with that person, you fell in love with who they are. And that's the thing that always gets me. I fell in love with Eric, being a complete total nutcase, being the complete opposite of who I was, being the complete, everything. He just shows up and he is like the life of the party. He shows up, he's full of all this energy. And I fell in love with that, everything about him. But once we got married and once I started to get into other circles, I wanted him to change. Sure. And I was like, well, wait a second. I fell in love with him and all of him and who he was. So now why am I looking to change him? Why is that narrative starting to change? So then focus on you and not so much on him, because you cannot change your spouse.
I love this. I love this. Listen, I'm tempted to continue on in a marriage lane, and we can do this. But should we focus on the marriage lane, Eric and Tameka, or should we get down to the business of Marraige Takeover and to understand how you started it? I can go either way. Right now, I'm so excited. We can just do a marriage podcast right now, or we can get to the business of Marraige Takeover. What would y'all like to do?
Well, brother, I tell you, it's on you. I mean, we can go either way, because it's a lot of times, even when you begin to look at marriage itself, because of the lack of communication, it falls into where now we don't understand the finances. So even in that, we can get into the business.
We'll do the business.
Everything
else, they can find your material. So help me understand this, Eric. What products and services? Well, before we get there, how did you start it? Let's start there. Why did you start it? How did you start it, Eric? What was or Tameka, whoever wants to answer that? Give me some of the genesis of how you started. Here's where I want to go with this. We're talking to business owners. They got to do Facebook ads or not. They got to hire or not. They got to have design or not. They have to grow. So that's for the arc of the conversation. If you see where I'm going, how did you start? When did you get that first dollar? What was that like? And then let's talk back and forth, me, you, and Eric and Tameka and Ramon, about where it is today. Lessons learned for business owners. So we'll consider this a part 2 of our conversation. So feel free, Tameka or Eric, let's talk about that first dollar, that first check you got, as it were. What was that like, and how did that start? Before we continue on.
So the first check that we got, and what was so funny about it, it was literally 4 years ago.
Okay.
No, 3 years ago. We were still looking at it as ministry.
And that's by the way, let me say to me, that's a fair point, because ministry, you and I probably know mutual friends, even though we're just getting to know each other, who are in ministry. They want to save the world. They're scrambling, going all over the place, and they got no money. So I don't want to get a sidetrack, but I do want to tell the Rundown with Ramon audience, that is a key point. Ministry is wonderful, but I don't even know where Eric's going, but I suspect ministry's good. We all want to do service, but if you don't have food to eat, that's a problem. So please continue, Eric, but I think it's a good point you made.
And so when it started, it was crazy. We was helping people, because even our podcast is 5 years old now.
Yeah.
And so when we got invited to do a seminar, and they paid us, and we was like, oh, okay, hey, no problem. But they paid us, and we was like, no, we got it. So we're trying to give them back the money. It's like, no, we're doing it for the Lord. God is good. We're saving marriages. Yeah, but they was like, but every man is worthy of their hire. And so when I sat back, we looked at each other like this, like, hold on. And it was so funny, because we kept fighting tooth and nail trying to get folks' money back. But as we began to look at it, it was so funny, because fast forward that year, because we kind of got burnt out just doing it. So we stopped. I mean, Yeah, let's just say our numbers was great, but when we stopped because we got burnt out, we were just in prayer one day, and God gave us a book to write, and it was Know Your Role. That book had been set for what, at least 4 years, I want to say. But at this point, it was like, no, you need to finish it. And then it was like, I want you to make Marraige Takeover for profit. So it was during our tax season. Our tax person was like, you know what? Hey, I'm just go ahead and create this. We'll go ahead and create this for profit. Huh? Wait a minute. What you doing in my product closet? You don't know what's going on. And literally, soon as that took place, we still ain't know, quote unquote, what we were doing. So we was trying to gain the momentum back that we lost when we took that time off. Now, was it stressful in that time frame? Yes, it was. Did it put some weight even on our marriage? Yes, it did. But when you begin to understand that even your ministry has something that's greater, so you have to make sure that you continue to keep your lines of communication open in your marriage, so you both will understand, hey, listen, I'm tired now. You're getting on my nerves. So getting to, after we found to be, for a Marraige Takeover to be a for-profit, getting to that first dollar came from what? What was that first dollar?
Well, we started out with doing it for free for a long time, because it was ministry focused. We were like, okay, we can't charge people for this. This is ministry focused. Then we went to love offering, because if, as you know, in business, things cost. So somebody's got to pay the cost. And if it's coming from, it was literally coming from our household, every event, everything that we were offering, all the food, all the things. And then we're still pouring out into these families. And we were like, wait a second. Our first marriage seminar we had at a public library, because they only charged us $25 for the room. But then we still had to buy food, and we still had to buy, we hired a photographer that came out. I think actually she donated the service. The photographer came out, and then we see decorations and props and things. And they were like, okay, this is cute. So then we went on to the next year we did like a marriage retreat, and I think we charged $99 for that event, because we were like, okay, well, if we need a space, we need to like start building momentum and doing things like that. So we went from there, and then it was like, wait a second. We didn't know anything about marketing. We didn't know anything about the Facebook ads. We didn't know anything about putting it on the radio. We didn't know any of that stuff. So we just started sharing the word and sending the word out. And we were like, great. We had 20 couples that showed up for the retreat, and it was amazing. And then at the end of the day, Ramon, when we were looking at them numbers, we were like, we ain't make no money.
No, we were in the negative.
Okay, well, the building was paid for. But we didn't understand the business of how to separate the ministry from the business aspect. And it was a really hard transition for us, because we wanted to serve, but then we didn't want to look for the money and the money be the focus.
What did you learn, Tameka? Tell me what was the catalyst? What did you learn? How long did this take? Because I think this is a really important concept when you're able to take money. And feel free, I'd love to at some point to know, we can go on your website, but know what products or services, because I think this is an emotional journey. So Tameka, help me understand how you shifted, when you shifted. Talk me through that arc a bit more, and then Eric, feel free to jump in.
Absolutely. So when we started, again, so that shift, we were in that space. We did volunteer for about 1.5 years. Then we did the love offering for about 1.5 years. And then from there, we started to charge. And then when we started to charge, we started to understand, okay, so this isn't working. Something is not working. And it started to shift how we were serving the people. And we didn't want that to take place. So it wasn't until we were able to get a mentor in business. And when we were able to hire a mentor in business, they were able to share with us how to now target the right avatar. Making sure that, yes, we want to make sure that we're serving God's people. We want to make sure that we're serving them and serving them well, but how to differentiate, how to reach out. Then that took place. And then we started about 2 years ago, really started making money. If I can be 100% honest.
Let me ask you this then, Tameka and Eric, whoever wants to answer, Tameka or Eric. Are you saying then, we are only going to help those who have money? Those of you who don't have money, sorry, your marriage is going to break up. You in the hood, you ain't got no money. Sorry, y'all, we leaving you. Only the rich and famous, the Kardashians and NBA players, we're saving their marriage. Everybody else, sorry, break up. Is that what you're saying?
Right. No, not at all. Not at all.
But unpack that, because some people may think, I want to help the people who don't have. How do you do that balance of making a profit, making money? We are in business.
Right.
But versus, because yours is a bit different. It's not selling a pen I can sell for $10,000. You have people coming to you, Mr. Eric, my wife is going to leave me in tears. I have no money. Versus, hey, I'm an NBA player. Here's your $20,000 check. Fly to my house and solve. You get what I'm saying. Unpack that for me. How do you solve that and balance that?
So with that, I mean, I'll be so honest with you. When you begin just to look at the divorce rate, you're looking at an average. And I have to say average because each state is different. But you're looking at an average of $5,000 that you're going to pay just to have a divorce. And I'm just like, hold on, why pay that? If you got money to divorce, you got money to actually stay together. And it's not going to cost you $5,000 because understand, when you look at the $5,000 on average, that's a upfront cost. So now if you got kids, you got to look at the payment that's going to continue to go to the kids. Then you got to also look at the mental aspect of your children. Then you got to also look at, so what I'm saying is that the costs continue to cost. But for when you're talking about those that don't have it, when you come to us, understand, we pray about everything. And honestly, I have to be so honest. And the Lord he has said to us so many times, hey, no, don't charge them. And I'm saying like, hold on, what? What you mean? But guess what? And
let me share something here. I'm guessing, Eric, what I've heard from people is the reason why is because those who can pay and should pay 80% can fund. My friend Kim Walsh, she calls it a scholarship. You can now afford to help others, is what I'm guessing.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And that was what I was gonna. So we offer. So if you are unable to pay and you are willing to do the work, right? There's a difference because there are some people who are not willing to pay or not able to pay, but then they don't want to do the work either. And so we have to make sure that you're willing to do the work. And so from there, when we have clients who can afford to do that, we set aside a portion, 10% for those who are unable to pay. And so when we go to like different churches and different congregations, or if we have certain things, we're always doing lives. We have a way to be able to feed out and weed out those who we know that are serious, those who we know who are not able to afford it, and we're able to serve them in that capacity.
Love it. I love it. So let's talk today. What are some of the lines of products and services Marraige Takeover has at a broad level? Put it in some buckets, Eric or Tameka, that you have it available. If I go to your website, what do I click and buy? What's available? I see that, Eric. Like, go ahead, Tameka. Slay it, queen. Go ahead.
So we have marriage coaching. We also do retreats. So we also have intensives, which is our boot camp, where it's a 3-day boot camp where we take a couple from crisis mode and get them from the crisis mode of not talking, not in the same household, not talking, to then by the end of that 3 days, they're actually turned around and they're starting to change the trajectory of their marriage to get back on track, to at least start talking again. And then we funnel them into one of our programs where we really are able to help them to maintain their marriage, to maintain certain things, to rebuild their marriage. And then we are doing our first retreat since COVID. We haven't done anything since COVID, but we're planning our very first retreat since COVID in April.
And the summit. Don't forget about the summit.
And the summit in February. So summit in February of 2024. And then in April, we're going to be doing our very first retreat out in Aruba. So we're super excited about that since COVID. But absolutely, the coaching, that's the membership. I almost forgot about our membership. So our membership is it helps the couples, right? We have 3 different tiers and 3 different phases that we work with our couples, and we call it the Her Method. And really is taking from the biblical reference of Aaron and Hur when they were helping Moses when he was fighting the battle. And so every time they let his arms down, he would lose the battle. And every time they lifted his arms up, they would be able to, he was winning the battle. And so we come in alongside Marraige Takeover and we help lift your arms up so that you can get through those trenches. So our membership has different tiers to take you from crisis mode to maintenance mode and then to enrichment mode so that you really are able to thrive inside of your marriage.
I love it.
Why are you laughing?
Because it's like, no, it's the her method, and it's like it was so enlightening when we begin to look at that, and I mean, like I said, it's all from the Lord, because that's all he did was assist Moses with everything.
Yeah.
And that's literally what we do. So when you get into our membership and you are willing to put in the work, especially if you come in and you're already on the brink of divorce, you get in our membership. It's not, oh, we bring you out and then just leave you hanging. No, we continue to show, as long as you continue to want to participate, we continue to show you how to enjoy marriage and just the way that literally that God planned for it to be. And it's so awesome. It's so awesome. So with all of those things that we offer, because we serve the marriage just for the men, we serve marriages just for the women. Heck, we serve the marriage for the parents. So it's like literally everything is in that membership. And a lot of times, a lot of the couples don't understand when it comes down to certain roles. So we, even to the point where we have a book, it's Know Your Role in Your Marriage, to where it helps you to identify your roles ain't gonna look like my roles. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's totally different. So yeah, all of that, is those things that we offer for couples to help them to be enriched and continue to, to show that it's
sure.
possible.
And my role, Eric, is very clear in my household. I tell you two of my roles. Like my wife just now, she said, there's some stuff on the floor. I think because probably when somebody took the trash out, you leak a little bit or something. I didn't know who's gonna mop it. There's not even a question. I didn't know who's mopping it. It's gonna be me. Or she pointed it out. In a good way, meaning I'm gonna mop the floor. That's just it. Or the trash gets a little high. This trash is a bit high, huh? It's gonna be empty next minute. So, and she has her amazing roles too. So, but I love that, Eric. Let's talk about one thing I'm hearing. Well, broad question I want to ask Eric or Tameka. Can you talk about some of the pillars of your growth? What have you learned in business? Talk about Marraige Takeover, but what can we learn for generally any business who's listening to us today? You went from ministry to business. You learned how to charge. You probably learned, make a profit. I'm guessing, putting that all in. What else did you have to learn? Talk to us through some of the elements of what your business is today that you had to really say, Ramon, and it could be hiring. It could be advertising. It could be building a team. I don't know what that is. But can you remember any things like, oh yeah, these are 2 or 3 things or one thing that we had to learn and do that you can help others with today as they're on their business journey?
So for me, it was mindset.
I was just gonna say mindset was the biggest thing. Yeah.
And what trips me out is, I hate to take it, so I don't mean to be so biblical on it, but my wife will tell you, yeah, I make my mistakes, but when you have a revelation and begin to truly understand. So when we talk about God being a God of abundance, that's our mindset. He's not a God of lack. And so when we begin to look at business, she'll tell you, I was like, we can't charge that much. We can't charge that much. But then it was like, no, how much time are you putting in?
Me and my wife are the opposite of you all. We're the same way, but flipped. Go ahead, though.
And I'm like, I just can't. I felt bad charging, and you want to know how much it was? $40.
Right.
I felt bad for $40. And you can do that. You can spend $40 just say, you know what? We're not going to go to McDonald's today. Right. You know what I mean? And I was just like, but when I began to unlock my mind and to see literally, if God said it, everything is possible. And I'm just like, hold on, what? And I should tell you how much you want to charge. I'm so serious, because it's like, now it's like, okay, God, if you're giving it, because I literally pray, she'll tell you, I'm when it comes down to numbers has meaning. And with my background being in accounting, numbers have meaning and numbers tell a story. And so it's like, okay, so what are we charging now? Okay, it's no problem, but it's mindset and understanding I have to charge it. So in order to build the team,
that's right,
because we don't have the skill set to cover everything. We had to starting out, But like, honestly, my daughter, she's our AV. She's our camera person.
She's good though.
Hey,
She's
but
great.
it's not, but like, listen, my daughter has recorded the likes of, okay, and wife tapped me, so I can't throw out name, but.
Well, you can say you've got to the highest level of the last 4 years because you were speaking to Ramon Ray. That name you can shout out.
Oh, right. We got here because, and for real, she caught Ramon Ray. She caught Ramon Ray doing what he do in a conference that we were at. Yeah. So I'm telling you right now, I'm just like, hold on, wait a minute, is this? So, and I mean, she's good, and yes. So, and trust me, she's like, that'll be X amount of dollars, Daddy. We love you, but I still have a business myself. So, okay, got you. And so, but it's understanding, like, you know, you can do it. Yes. We're not greedy. We still seek the Lord because we still got to understand what the customer has to deal with. But to understand just the mindset that if it's there, you can literally attain it. Now, it's gonna take some work. It's just ain't gonna fall in your lap. You got to also invest, and knowing that part was great. You got anything to add?
I was just going to say, from the mindset, from just a different perspective of understanding that your value and your worth. Yeah. And so going from and then not feeling shame or guilt behind having to charge. And because it's the business. And if you allow and you feed into what others think or what others say, then you won't progress forward because you're always having this conversation back and forth inside of your mind. And you're like, okay, well, should I do this? Should I do that? So that the mindset from that particular perspective. And then also the power of agreement, right? It's a little different because we're in business together and we're very different. Our perspectives are different sometimes. How we come about decisions are different sometimes, but when we come together with the power of agreement, how it propels us forward and accelerates what we do in business and how we do in business. And then the other thing that we learned is hiring. Mm-hmm. So for the first time outside of like hiring so we had to fire our son. Mm-hmm. We had to fire our son just because there were some things that we were looking and had expectations for that he just was not willing to be able to do, which was okay. We were able to hire our daughter. She still works for us, but then we also hired a business virtual assistant. Mm-hmm. And let me tell y'all, I was so excited. I was like, yes, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to have some help. We're going to be able to do these different tasks, get these things offshore until it was not. And I was like, oh my gosh. So
what went wrong?
Everything. So
meaning, did you hire the wrong person? Were they clearly, did they overpromise? Just curious, meaning at a high level, what was, would you do it again? I guess, were they just the wrong one? Help me unpack that, because I think it's an important part.
So, number one, I hired the wrong person to do the job. So we went through an interview process, and I have I have some experience with the HR background. Sure. And my heart was compelled to go with another young lady, another candidate. And I was like, but that candidate did not have the skill set on paper to be able to do the job that we were looking for. And that was, to be able to, social media accounts, email campaigns, video campaigns and editing, just different things like that. And so when we started that particular process, we went with the candidate that had the skill set that said that they could do what they were doing, and looking for funnels, right? We wanted to be able to have somebody to build out the funnels for us. And so when we went through the interview process, everything was great. We went through the hiring process, we did the onboarding. And then when we offered the first assignment, we offered an assignment first before we hired, which was a great deal. That was okay. But what I should have done, and the lesson that I learned then, was I should have not moved forward because they did not fully meet the expectation. Then number two, I proceeded to move forward because I needed the help. And I was like, okay, well, we can do this. We can do this. And so I recorded trainings. I spelled out everything. I created all these checklists. I did everything. And then it took what was supposed to be like a 2-day job, like a week and a half. And so when I communicated, I brought them in, we talked and we had a conversation. Hey, what's going on? well, I'm looking for this and I'm looking for the training. Well, listen, I see that you didn't even look at one of the videos that I created for you, because I can see how many times it's been viewed.
That's
So
right.
help me to understand why you didn't look at the video. Help me to understand where we're missing the mark. Help me to understand where the communication is not coming together, because I really need this work. And if I have to go and do it, then I don't need this service.
Right.
And it was a hard conversation to have. And oh, I'm so sorry, I'll do it. And so they did it, but then the work was still progressively slow. And when you have to do payroll and you have to pay out, it's a different kind of conversation when you're looking at the output and the performance and the the KPIs versus what I'm paying you to do. And so I had to fire quickly. That was the one thing that I think that I did listen to from my mentor. If you hire slow, I didn't hire slow, but I did fire quickly. So I released her to her destiny. And now looking at the table again, we are hiring now again, but making sure that number one, the person understands our mission. We were just looking for somebody to fill a spot, to do a task. But this next person that we hire, we need to make sure that they understand our mission, that they understand our call, our drive, what they're looking for. And then we will have, projects for them to be able to do, or a project. And if they don't do well, then that's not the person for us.
What if they tell you that I had a problem in my marriage, so I couldn't do it? That was a joke. That was a silly joke. It's okay.
We get that on sound, though. We get that on sound.
You go fire them and then say, now you can join the program, and then come back after you fix your problem.
My question would be, come on, you're here at the job. Why you're not reading the material and utilizing it? Come on.
That's right. That's right.
It doesn't work if you don't work it.
Right.
I love it. Before we end, and Eric and Tameka, I could talk to you all literally for another hour. We have so many synergies that I'll email you about offline. But Eric, what didn't I ask you? What is it that you wanted to share that I didn't ask? Whether it's about marriage or about business, either one I'm happy with. What didn't I ask you that you're like, here's what I want to get out?
The one thing, that I wish you would have asked was, how are you able to wear the hats as a, being a marriage person and also a business person as well? And the thing is, one, I would tell you, be who you are. Remove your ego, remove your pride, because you do not know it all. I would tell you, because in order to keep the train running smoothly, both in marriage and in business, you got to know who you are, and you got to know what your skill set is. So she has a background in hiring and firing. She has a background in hiring. I can fire anybody. But mine's like, hey, thank you for your help. See you later, bye. Hers is a lot more gentle. But when it comes down to it, it's like, you have to know your role, understand your role. And just because your role might be in an area where you don't see a lot of men doing it, you got to understand that's what worked for their business. So you just have to know who you are and be humble enough to do who you are, no matter what outside looks like.
I love that. Be humble and know who you are and remove your ego. I love that. Tameka, what about yourself? What's a question I didn't ask, or any last minute words you wanted to share?
I don't know about a question you didn't ask, but if I could just share this to encourage any couple right now that might be going through a challenge, that might be, okay, my marriage is over. I don't know what else to do. I don't know where else to go. And you're repeating a cycle, or you're attracting maybe the same toxic relationships. I just want you to know that, number one, you are not alone. And I want you to know that it is important to know that it's not your fault. Right? The things that we're served in life, oftentimes they really aren't our fault. It's because how life has served us. We've learned how to adapt. We've learned how to regroup. We learn behaviors. We learn different things. And so as a result of that, we become that in our life. And our relationships, it spills over into our relationships. So I just want to encourage you to know that, number one, you're not alone. And number two, it is not your fault.
I love it. Everybody, this has been Eric and Tameka of Marraige Takeover. One more time, Eric, feel free, or Tameka, to shout out who you are, what you do, your website address, give a shout out about yourself, whoever wants to do that before we end this amazing discussion. It looks like, Tameka, that is you.
Hey, so it's Tameka.
It's your boy, E-Rock them.
And we are of Marraige Takeover. Listen, we keep it real, we keep it raw, we keep it uncut. And we help couples win in their marriage by identifying their triggers and breaking generational cycles. You can follow us on all social media as well as our website. Everything is at Marraige Takeover or marriagetakeover.com. And we would love to serve you.
I love it. And this is Ramon Ray with the Rundown with Ramon. You can get to know me better at RamonRay.com or just Google Ramon Ray and some platform you're on. And again, but what a delight it was to interview the founders of Marraige Takeover, my new friends, Eric and Tameka of Marraige Takeover. And again, this is the Rundown with Ramon.